My name is Don Pettit. This is Inside ISS.
You almost take it for granted that you're in this remote location. You hit on my very nerve.
And who's this?
This is Mike Massimino.
Oh, you're not Mike Massimino.
You don't look like you're from
Tom
New York.
Marshburn. Doing my best to fill in for Mike Massimino.
How is the communication with your family? Because we've got a number of different assets now that you could stay in touch with your family. Tell me about those and how successful it was.
You know, that's a good question, because you want to be able to communicate, and now we have so many means to do it. You feel like it's no problem communicating at all. You almost take it for granted that you're in this remote location, because we can call on the telephone, we can send email, and now we have live email. I don't know if you
you have live email. Is it like putting a message in a bottle and throwing it out with
No, you hit send and it goes and they get it, you know, whatever seconds later. As opposed to the old school days of three times a day. Yeah, 3 times a day.
And you'd send a message out if you missed the ebbing tide. You know, it might be a day, 2 days before you got a response to your email.
Exactly. So we have that, and then of course the family conferences on the weekends and things. I really enjoyed those. It's nice to see people and talk to them. Although with all this other communication, you get to the Saturday family conference and you go, what am I going to talk about? We already talked about it last night on the telephone.
I found the same thing. We get in the conference, and it was great talking to my wife, but my kids were just sitting there squirming. They felt like, oh, I got to be there because Dad's in space. I got to be. But we'd already talked through other means, and what are you going to talk about?
What are you going to talk about?
Well, if you tried it, we would just set me up on the iPad on the countertop while they ate dinner or fixed.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And I was just ahead on the countertop, but at least I got to see them living a normal life. I don't know if you guys did that at all.
Yeah, we did, and that was nice because they could kind of just like do what they were going to do in that normal hour, and it kind of makes you feel like you're part of the daily routine sort of thing. So that was kind of cool.
Being a Navy guy, likes everything battened down, all the hatches, you know, nice and clean, and it's always a perennial problem on the space station. If you get everything really organized, then it's not as mobile or as accessible as it could be. Did you ever find a happy solution?
You know, you hit on my very nerve, because I like organized things, and it just drove me crazy to see cables and everywhere. And many times I got it all perfect with Velcro, and it looked pretty, and you could take the model picture of it. But then the next task is remove this thing from behind that nest that you just created.
That happened to me so many times. I just gave up, and so you just have this rat's nest of cables
that you can move quickly.
And things just kind of float around, and you just learn to live with.
But I'm working with a Navy SEAL, so he just fixed it all up, and then I got to mess it up. So I'd wait until you turn around, and then I'd grab the laptop I needed and pull it, and yank out all the cabling that I needed, so strain across the cabin again. Oh gosh.
You know, what was the other thing similar to this was just literally a couple days before I left, the bags of bags were getting out of control.
Oh, these were bags of empty bags.
Yeah, so we have, you know, there's a thing called a 3.0 CTB, which is 3 times a 1.0 CTB, and those are convenient.
1.0 is about the size of a normal
duffel bag, kind of
like
a suitcase or so. And so that's kind of the gold standard for measurement. So they have a 2.0 bag and a 3.0 bag and these other big bags. And so I finally got fed up with, because we had 2.0s of 3.0s and 3.0s of 2.0s and 1.0s of halves and all these crazy combination of bags. And so I took a Sunday before I left and just kind of organized those bags, and I got it all pretty. And I'm sure by now, as bags come and go, and it's very hard to keep it organized like that, you know, because it's just the nature of life up there. You got to pull bags out and you got to put bags in. But that was I was happy to, and I took a picture of these MO2 bags, very neatly labeled with.
It was that way when I left.
That's huge. Yeah, I must
It was
have
that way when I left. If it wasn't that way when you were there, it
It's
must have been
Tom's fault. It's Tom's fault.
Again, even though you might be back to the space station, what was crossing your mind at that time?
So I remember it just being kind of an unscheduled, not much going on in the day, and then it was kind of slow all morning. And then I kind of felt the pace pick up as the Russian guys are making sure everything's packed up, and I was just gathering my things. And I was having a bite to eat in Node 1. I got tapped on the shoulder, and next thing I know, it's time to go. And that hatch closed. And you said it before, you know, you just watch that hatch close, and you say bye to those guys, and you think, wow, that just closed a chapter of my life with that hatch, and a significant event in my life. And I remember thinking that was really kind of special what just happened, but I still got a big event to do here coming up, and let's hope the parachute opens, kind of thing. So
now, so you closed the hatch on station. A couple hours later, you opened the hatch back up, and you were on Earth. So what was that like?
You know, we're coming down. It's just one crazy, wild ride, as you guys remember, that whole last part of the entry. When we finally impacted and we kind of tumbled, and I looked, I was on the high side. You know, there's 3 seats, and it ended up on its side, and I was up high. And I looked down, and I felt the whole kind of Soyuz spin around with my head, and I looked at Sasha and kind of smiled, and then right next to his head was a patch of grass in the window. And I remember thinking, that's grass. We're stopped. We're here. This is pretty cool. We made it. And we were all smiling and kind of shaking hands together inside the cockpit. And it was a really clear day, so the helicopters had no problem getting there almost instantly. And I think maybe 2-3 minutes later, I heard voices right outside the cockpit. That was pretty neat to actually hear other people's voices on the outside of our spaceship. Pretty cool.
Any smells or feelings or anything like that?
So that was interesting. When with the ventilation system, once that started going and they opened the valve, I can't remember the exact name of the valve, but a whole bunch of dust and Kazakhstan dirt was coming into our cabin, and Pavel was telling the guys, shut the valve, or stop doing what you're doing. And it just kind of filled with this mist of fine dirt inside our spaceship. You could kind of write your name on the panel in the dirt. And then I knew we were definitely back on the ground then.